All right. Everyone, welcome to the Ask JP podcast where we tackle the issues of the day. This is a yet another episode in our ongoing series on criminal justice reform. Today, I'm extremely excited to have one of our candidates for DA, former Judge Arthur Hunter. Uh, Judge Hunter was born and raised in New Orleans. He attended Jefferson Davis Elementary School and graduated from St. Aug High School in 1977. After high school, he earned his Bachelor of Arts in Political Science from Loyola University in New Orleans. Judge Hunter served as an officer with the New Orleans Police Department after graduating from college. He earned his law degree from Loyola University while at night while being a police officer. In 1996, Judge Hunter was elected to the Orleans Parish Criminal District Court, where he presided as a judge until his early retirement in the beginning of 2020. As a judge, Judge Hunter presided over mental health court for 2 years, and he served as the presiding judge of the Orleans Reentry Program for Veterans Treatment Court. He was also a member of several professional associations and was the chair of the Orleans Parish Criminal District Court Disaster Committee, served on the Rule of Law and International Courts and Court and Technology Committees in the Judicial Division of the American Bar Association until his early retirement. Also notable, Judge Hunter struck down an unconstitutional state statute that targeted undocumented immigrants for felony prosecution for minor traffic offenses. He was the first Louisiana trial court judge to issue a court order to fairly and justly compensate an exonerated defendant, and also ruled unconstitutional the state's notorious crime against nature statute that for years had targeted African Americans and transgender citizens for felony prosecution. Judge Hunter, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you, JP. Appreciate the opportunity.
All right, let's get started. So, really easy question. Why do you want to be a district attorney?
Well, JP, I just retired after 23 years this past February. And I'm a former New Orleans police officer. And I know if we want to be a safer city, we need a district attorney that will reduce recidivism, hold people accountable for their actions, and prosecute cases fairly and ethically and professionally without the lawsuits and the drama. And so, being a mental health court judge, a veterans treatment court judge, and reentry court judge, I know for people who commit nonviolent offenses, we connect them with the services that they need. They become better people. We did that when I was a mental health court judge. We connected people, with mental health professionals so they can get the treatment and services they needed. Lori White and I started the reentry court, in which we identified 18 to 25-year-olds who didn't have their high school diploma. And we sent them to Angola, where they were taught how to be plumbers, electricians, whatever skilled trade they selected. And they were taught by the lifers, JP, the guys who were serving life sentences there. But they also taught them the soft skills, how to take care of yourself, how to be a man, how to take care of your family, how to balance a checkbook, how to have the proper work attitude. And so after 2 years, when they returned and we placed them on probation, we had a job waiting for them. They came back productive. They came back taxpayers. They came back taking care of themselves and their families. And some of them came back being leaders in their community as well. In the Veterans Treatment Court, I started the first Veterans Treatment Court in Louisiana, because I knew those young kids coming back from Afghanistan and Iraq were suffering from PTSD. And so, once they veterans came to the Tulane and Broad, they were assigned to my court. And we connected them to the VA, in which they dealt with their PTSD, employment issues, housing issues, upgrading their discharge, upgrading their benefit packages. And so we can do more than only the couple of hundred people that came to my court. We can expand that to others as well. And look, JP, like I said, I was a police officer also, but as an attorney and judge, I've also held police officers accountable for any misconduct. And so I know that we need to be safe. And so I want to work with the NOPD, and we're going to create a special crimes unit. And this special crimes unit will consist of the intelligence division to identify who's doing what, the major case narcotics to do the investigation, and work with the FBI and the DEA to provide the resources and technology we need. Because look, JP, I just don't want to have a news conference that night. Everyone is standing around and you have guns, cash, and dope on the table, but a week later, they're back at the same street corner selling. So that's why I want the the federal law enforcement involved, so we can have a sustained, substantial investigation. And we also have to deal with our kids in coming through the juvenile justice system. So I just don't want to deal with what that young person did, but why. And so we're going to address issues within the home as well. And we're going to have 3 objectives. Number 1, we're going to support the family. Number 2, we're going to put that child on a positive path. And number 3, we're going to make that first crime the last crime.
Thanks. Sorry about that. I think that's a great summary. I think you also kind of tackled the second part of that question, which is what your background makes you uniquely qualified. But let me ask you another question. What is your opinion as a former judge with the current state of the criminal justice system at Tulane and Braun?
Unfair, chaotic, not doing the right thing, and not working with others and other community organizations and elected officials to reduce and prevent crime. We need a district attorney who's going to be out there taking the lead and bringing criminal justice reform and bringing real change. Now, we don't need a district attorney who's going to be out there on the court steps because he didn't win a particular case or win a particular item that he wanted and blasting the judges, blasting other elected officials. We need a district attorney that's going to make sure that has integrity. We're going to need a district attorney that can work with others. We need a district attorney that's going to lead the community and be involved in the community as well.
Okay. Let me ask you your stance on a couple of issues that are very important, district attorney, which also, you dealt with when you were a judge as well. But what is your opinion of the cash bail system? And if you disagree with it, what would you do in the alternative?
Well, the cash bail system is because people, who are charged with offenses can't afford the bond or can't afford the bond to be released. And look, I'm going to be concerned with 2 things about bail and bond. If the person is a danger to the community, I'm going to argue to the judge the person should remain in jail. If the person will not return to court for court proceedings, I'm going to argue to the judge that the person should remain in jail. But I'm not going to object to someone who receives a release on their own recognizance by a judge. I'm not going to even ask for a monetary amount. My concern is going to be, that my assistant district attorneys are prepared to present the best case before the judge and the jury. That's going to be my concern. But another thing I'm going to do too, JP, is that in my screening division, I'm going to have an assistant district attorney available 24/7, 365. And that assistant district attorney will meet with that NOPD officer before that arrest warrant is submitted to a judge for signature and make sure the information in that warrant supports the charge. And if it's not, we're going to work with the NOPD to make sure it happens. Now, we're not going to do an investigating, but we're going to make sure that information is there. And secondly, because I want to expand the number of people going to the specialty courts, if you have a behavior disorder, a drug opioid addiction, or if you're a veteran, those people will go to a specialty courts and the judges will release them on their own recognizance if they can't afford the bond, so they can take advantage of the services. So that's going to mean less people being in jail. It's going to also be less taxpayers' money going to the sheriff's office as well.
Okay. What is your position on mandatory minimums? I know as a judge, many judges have said, and to a degree they're correct, that the way the law is written, should an individual meet the criteria for a triple bill or multi-bill, that they have to receive a mandatory minimum sentence. And obviously that's been an issue. I'm sure as a judge, you were previously constrained by what DAs did with that, because once they meet the criteria, your triple billed, your multi-billed, mandatory minimum applies. But as DA, you'll be in a unique position to decide whether or not to triple bill or multi-bill someone. What is your position on mandatory minimums, and how do you intend to use them, if at all?
Look, JP, when I was a judge and they tried to, the assistant district attorneys filed a multiple bill on someone, especially in a nonviolent offense, I always ruled or came back with a sentence less than the mandatory minimum. Now, I was reversed 100% of the time, but it doesn't make sense, and it's not fair to apply mandatory minimums to with people with nonviolent offenses or that charges nonviolent offenses. Look, if you look into their record, into their jacket, you would find that it's probably a mental health issue in the beginning or a drug opioid addiction in the beginning. Look, I'm not going to, I'm not going to use the habitual offender statute unless it's a very serious, egregious case. Let me give you an example. In domestic abuse, battery, strangulation, the maximum sentence is only 4 years. But we also know that strangulation is the #1 indicator for murder. And so when we believe it's a violent charge and that the sentence won't be appropriate, that's the only time we would consider using the habitual offender statute. Other than that, I'm not going to use it to threaten people to take a plea. I'm not going to use it to force people to take a plea. And I'm going to allow people to have their rights to have their day in court, to have a trial.
Okay. Death penalty. Obviously, once again, as a judge, you were often, especially with former Judge DA Leon Cannizzaro, I'm sure we saw the death penalty a lot more than you normally would. One of the big issues that I've noted in talking with victims, in particular, victims, not the actual person charged with the crime. In many cases, the victim's family would go to the DA and say, "We don't want the death penalty because we're God-fearing Christians. We don't believe in it." And our DA would say, "Too bad, I'm going after the death penalty."
Yes.
As district attorney, well, first off, personally, because everybody needs to have a personal opinion.
Yeah.
Personally, do you support the death penalty? As district attorney, what will you do about the death penalty?
Yeah. JP, I'm against the death penalty. I presided over 3 death penalty trials. I think probably the most since 1997 when I first got on the bench. And I can tell you in each of those trials, it was emotional for the victim family, for the defendant, the defendant's family, for the jurors, attorneys, even for me. And so it takes an emotional toll on you. And in each of those cases, the jury returned a verdict of a life sentence. I recognize the injustice within the system. I mean, I fought against that injustice at Tulane Broad since I was a judge in 1997. I also realized the financial taxpayer costs involved in litigating and defending those death penalty cases. And JP, someone asked me about redemption. And if I didn't believe in redemption or saving people, I wouldn't have been a mental health court judge. I wouldn't have started a veterans treatment court or started a reentry court. So we've saved people, And look, I'm going to use restorative justice principles as well on those cases. And JP, look, I just hope and pray that the day never comes where I may have to consider. And I can tell you, in my 23 years, in the 3 death penalty cases I had, the death penalty was not warranted by the district attorney's office.
In regard to police reform, as a judge, as a potential district attorney, what do you feel like the district attorney can contribute to the system to change the systemic racism and injustices built into the policing of Black and brown people? What do you think your DA's office will do different, and what are some specific examples of what you plan on doing to interact with the police department in a better way and to help the police department become less problematic in this regard?
Yeah, look, JP, when I was a judge, and you mentioned this earlier, right after Katrina, we had a number of undocumented immigrants who came to the city, specifically Latinx and Latino, and they rebuilt the city. They helped us. I mean, they rebuilt my house. But the NOPD was targeting Latino undocumented immigrants, basically asking for their papers, whether or not they were citizens. Well, I found that statute unconstitutional and ruled no probable cause and was hearings. And this recently, in the French Quarter Task Force, 2 cases that came before me, I found that the NOPD was racially profiling African-American males in the French Quarter. And as a result, those officers were being investigated, the unit was disbanded, and the cases were dismissed. So personally, on a personal level, I'm not going to tolerate and accept cases based on racial profiling. What we need to do, and not just with the police department, but also in the DA's office too, we need to not only have implicit bias training, but anti-racism training as well. And so I'm going to make sure that that I work with NOPD, because I'm going to tell them, look, if you bring me a tainted case, we can't proceed with that case, which means what happened to that victim goes unresolved. It goes unresolved. And so we have to make sure that when the NOPD does an investigation, the investigation is complete, is thorough, is accurate, includes the facts, and doesn't have any taint of racism or any other type of bias in it. And so also, JP, within the district attorney's office, I think what we need to do, well, I know what we need to do is also hire, more from the African-American community, the Latinx community, the Asian community, and the LGBTQ community, to hire, qualified people for staff and as attorneys, because that's the only way we can really, really reduce. I'm not going to say we're going to eliminate it, because we live in a society in which racism is present. But we can definitely do within the criminal justice system to make sure that we treat everybody the same and we prosecute cases fairly regardless of who you are.
Do you consider yourself a reform candidate? And let me be a little more specific. Everyone considers himself a reform candidate this cycle. I think it's kind of like the thing. But could you give me an idea of what you think a reform candidate is and why you think you are a reform candidate?
Look, JP, what I've been doing as a judge since 1997, I've made controversial decisions, about one or two of them, and I made those regardless of the political consequences. I was a mental health court judge in 2008 after Judge Calvin Johnson started the first one. He retired, and he asked me to take it over. That's criminal justice reform in 2008. When I started the Laurie White and I started the reentry court program, and I started the Veterans Treatment Court program in 2010, that was criminal justice reform. Striking down, statutes that I believe are unconstitutional, criminal justice reform. And so I've been doing the work. I haven't started this within the last year or saying what I want to do when I had the opportunity to do something. And so I've been doing the work. And now, everybody is, basically copying my platform of what I've been doing since I've been on the bench. And so I consider myself, criminal justice reform, doing the right thing, JP, doing the right thing and being fair.
A little lighter question. What's it like campaigning during COVID? I know that you've campaigned before. I've campaigned before. Campaigning is done a very certain, almost like a mathematical kind of routine way. And this has really changed the game. What's your experience been like campaigning with COVID?
It's the virus is still out there. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. So you have to have protocol. You have to wear your mask. You have to wash your hands. You have to stay your distance. And, and people in New Orleans like to see you. They want to hear what you have to say. They want to look you straight in the eye, determine whether or not you're telling them the truth or you're just giving them, you're just giving them bull. And, we've been, I've been out there campaigning, again, following the safety protocols. It is different. What you and I are doing now is a result of this as well, with the Zoom. But, people, they really want to see you and they really want to be out there and see what you're doing and what you're talking about. And, whether or not you care about it. And so it is different. And I hope we don't have to, we don't have to do it again. But, that's we'll see what happens on November 3rd.
Well, and I mean, I will certainly tell you, I think part of the reason why I'm having these interviews, these kind of informal podcast interviews with different candidates is because when you look at what's happened with the Black Lives Matter movement, what's happened with all these various instances in which people have said, finally, criminal justice reform is the order of the day. We have to do it.
Right.
And you look at, and it could be the nature of COVID, it could be the nature of our crazy president. No one's covering the DA's races or the judge races. I mean, the papers are doing their standard. Let me do a little 1-paragraph bio on Arthur Hunter or Jason Williams or whoever. Here's their mama and them. Here's where they go to church, and that's it. Yeah. And people don't realize we vote on DA once every 6 years.
Yes.
So if you're not paying attention now, and you miss this opportunity, and you don't like who gets elected, you got to wait 6 years for another shot. So
that's correct.
I kind of stepped into this non-traditional format to try and give people the opportunity to put their platforms out there because people need to know who they're voting for. But
and I appreciate that. JP, look, someone asked me, look, I've never been involved in the criminal justice system. I'm not going to do anything wrong. And I said, well, that's true. But, you have an 18-year-old kid son, and he goes to the lake and he's with his other friends, and someone decides they want to smoke a joint, smoke a marijuana cigarette. The police show up and they arrest them, for smoking marijuana. Well, I'm not going to prosecute possession of marijuana cases, JP, because half the states is legal, whether recreational or medical. Here in Louisiana is legal medically, and I'd rather use those limited resources that we have in the DA's office for more serious crimes. And, why give a young person a criminal record just for smoking weed? And so that it may not affect you, but it will definitely affect someone directly related to you or indirectly related to you. So you need to, be sure and be confident in who you want to be your next district attorney.
All right. Keeping it clean. Why are you more qualified than your opponents?
JP, I protected the community as a police officer. I was assigned to the urban squad, which patrolled the housing developments, and then to the 5th district, which is the 7th, 8th, and 9th wards. And the 5th district was the hottest, as we call the hottest district in the city. So I was out there on the street protecting all of us, And also as an attorney and as a judge, I've also held police officers accountable for misconduct. And, I created, and Lori White and I created a nationally recognized program by the American Bar Association for preventing and reducing crime. Look, the recidivism rate for the reentry court program after 3 years is 9%, compared to 35% after 3 years for those who don't go through the reentry program. So we've done the work, and I've done the work to prevent and reduce crime. And look, I have a detailed platform stating what I believe will make us a safer city based on my courtroom experience and my time as a police officer. And look, I was a fair judge. I wasn't afraid to do the right thing. And I know together we can make our city safer and bring real change to the criminal justice system.
Is there anything else you want to add for people to consider as they're going forward and making that vote, starting early voting next week?
Yeah, please, if you're going to early voting is October 16th through the 27th. I'm asking for your support. I'm asking for your votes. My ballot number is 101, the easiest one to remember. And, I ask that you hit that push that button for Arthur Hunter for district attorney. And if you want more information about, me and my campaign, it's hunterforda.com.
All right. Well, thank you, Judge, for your time today. I really appreciate you working with me in this whole new weird format.
Yeah,
and I look forward to seeing you on the campaign trail virtually 6 to 12 feet away.
You got it. Look, JP, tell everyone I said hello.
I will. Thank you.